The 1970s were certainly very groovy times in America, and as such, many aftermarket companies modified factory Ford trucks to meet the demands of having really cool style and extra features. In this episode of Dentside Depot, we're going to take a look at all the aftermarket companies and the trucks that they designed throughout the 1970s to meet that specific demand. As you can see here, our list is very extensive as there were many companies that partnered with Ford Motor Company and then modified to have those really cool extra features that you could not get from the factory. The first company that we're going to look at is Recreational Vans Industries. Now this particular company probably has the coolest story out of all of them. Here we can see one of their later 1970s Ford models that they added pinstripes, captain's chairs, and a really groovy vinyl interior to. But the story of RVI is much cooler than just a simple modified truck. Along with Bill Strope, RVI actually made a few special edition trucks that chased a Ford balloon throughout the United States from Los Angeles down to Daytona as a promotional event. The big Ford balloon said limited edition sale, and the trucks were red with some really cool stripes on them. This was definitely a really cool time period where this company did this special event. Later on, they would offer some special trucks to commemorate the event, and they are definitely very rare to find today. The next company to offer a cool aftermarket package on 70s Ford trucks was Bivouac Industries, and their truck was the Styleline 4, which we can see here. This particular truck offered some really cool options. It had a paint stripe going down the side, it had a vinyl interior with a tufted headliner, it had wagon wheels. You could order it with a roll bar, or you could have a tonneau cover over the bed. It had a pretty cool interior with bucket seats being added, and it was also a different vinyl interior package as well. You could also get the twin sunroofs on this truck, which definitely was pretty neat. Special thanks to a Dentside Depot friend Rodney for sharing his truck, which was an original family one-owned truck, and he still has it to this day, and it is fully restored, which is pretty cool. Now, something to note about all of these aftermarket trucks is that they all share one very specific thing in common that you can use to identify them. If you look at the trim tag or the warranty tag inside of the driver's door on the body of the truck, you will see two things. The first thing is you will see the district order number as 86, and this represents that it is a recreational export. This means that Ford sent them directly to the company for them to be modified, and that indicates that you have one of those trucks. Also, you will almost always see an extra manufacturer placard below the warranty tag on the truck. It'll typically state the company that did the modifications. They will give you a new gross vehicle weight rating or a new tire size capability or whatever it may be to show that the vehicle was modified directly from the factory. This is a simple way to find that you have one of these factory modified trucks that were done in the aftermarket. The next company on our list is a company by the name of Turtle Top. Now, Turtle Top typically only does camper vans, but they did do a few pickup trucks during this time period. Their package actually looks very similar to Bivouac Industries Styleline 4, but there are slight differences. You can see that the stripe on this particular truck is slightly different, and it has some of the same features such as the front push bar. This particular truck came with turbine wheels instead of wagon wheels. The Turtle Top trucks had their own unique paint scheme like most of them did. They came with a specific velour interior on the seat and the door panels, and they offered many of the same options that the other companies did, being a CB radio and a tape deck or a 8-track player. Like most of the other companies, you would get the specialized paint, wheels, roll bar, tonneau cover, and front push bar to your specific liking. The next company is Gemco, and I think they did one of the very coolest aftermarket trucks that I've ever seen. They offered many different options on their trucks, but they really took them to the next level. They had really cool custom paint, obviously cool wagon wheels, and if you look closely, this particular truck has a side exit exhaust going down the side, much like a Corvette would, which was definitely really trick. The Gemco trucks would feature different types of roll bars and tonneau covers and rear visors for the windshield. Of course, push bars in the front. We can see this one again has a really cool paint scheme on it, and those side exit exhaust pipes along with running boards. On the inside, Gemco really went all out with the shag carpet, and if you look closely, their shag carpeting was very long. It looks like it's about 2 inches long, which was definitely very indicative of what you would see in the 1970s. Our next company is Wedge Conversions. Now, although I don't have a lot of information about this particular company, their style was very similar to Gemco, as in they did a really cool paint job, but the outside was pretty basic overall. But I'm sure you could have ordered whatever you wanted for this particular truck as well. On the inside, if we look closely, you could see that there would be a captain's chair and what was typically called an ice chest that you would find on many of the other manufacturers that we're going to talk about today. You can see the headliner and the visors are also done in an aftermarket vinyl style. The next company is Treanor's Truck Stuff, and they offered a few different models throughout their run in the 1970s. Probably their most known truck is the Macho 1, Macho 2, and Macho 3, which was definitely a really cool name for a pickup truck during this time period. One of the things that Macho did different, or the model Macho had different from most of the other trucks, is theirs had a camper topper on them that was aftermarket. You would always see the paint scheme going down and up to the camper topper, and it would say Macho 1, 2, or 3 on the camper topper. You could get these trucks in 4x4 or 2-wheel drive. This particular one is 2-wheel drive, and it is a Macho 3. You can see it has the really cool bucket seats or captain's chairs inside of it, and it also featured the ability to have the twin sunroof option on the inside. The next truck is the Cruisaire package, and this particular one I again do not have very much information on, but they had a very distinctive paint scheme compared to what some of the other trucks were doing, much more angular and different than what we would see on the other vehicles. Next up, we have one of the more known models, and that is from Midas International Corporation, and their truck was called the Midas Touch. The Midas Touch trucks were very distinctive in how they did their paint schemes. All of their paint schemes were very similar, although the colors were different, but you can pretty much instantly recognize when you have a Midas Touch truck. Midas Touch offered two equipment groups. The first one would just add the wheels and what they called high flotation tires, which is pretty neat. Of course, you would get the sport bar in the back, or the roll bar. You would get driving lights and a tonneau cover, which was definitely pretty cool. And then if you ordered the package 2, they would do the interior. They would let you have the ice chest or a center seat console, and you could add the double sunroof, an AM/FM 8-track dash-mounted player, mud guards, and a bunch of cool other things that really set these trucks off from the others. We do have some pricing information on the Midas Touch trucks, and surprisingly it was not as much as you would think. For the pickups, the package 1 was $825, and for the package 2 was $1,295. And then at the bottom you can see the sunroof would add $150, the 8-track player would add $185, and then a few other things with paint options would add a little bit more to the cost. We can see here on the picture on the left you could get them in a few different colors with a few different interior colors as well, which is definitely pretty neat. And that brings us to one of the most unique trucks and one of the rarest trucks to find, and that is from the company Sandbox. Now really you can think of these particular trucks less as a truck and more of a work of art, because every single truck is unique. If you have a Sandbox truck, it is truly a one-of-one edition. Each truck would have its own individual Art Deco or motif style painting on the side. Typically it would show some sort of a scene, whether a forest scene or a ship scene or a desert scene or something in space, but it would be a motif that was very typical for the time period, and it would be done in an airbrush style that was definitely really, really cool. The Sandbox trucks would also come with a unique vinyl bolstered interior with a few different switches and knobs and buttons for the exterior lights or whatever the customer wanted to order, and you could actually buy these trucks directly from a dealership like many of the others. Last but not least, we have the Dearborn Edition truck, and these particular trucks were made by a subsidiary of Coachman. The Dearborn trucks were made by Consolidated Leisure Industries, and they featured all of the cool options that we saw on the other trucks, as well as their own unique captain's chairs. They had the ice chest, and they also had special unique bolsters on the door panel, along with a placard that was seen on the dashboard, along with a few other really trick things that the customer may have wanted to order. There were many different aftermarket companies that made really cool trucks throughout the 1970s. If this is something that interests you, then I would definitely recommend subscribing to my channel, because starting this week we are going to be restoring one of these very trucks, and we will be doing this throughout the next couple months. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Dentside Depot. Remember to like and subscribe, and keep restoring those classic trucks.